Tigerland Properties. These are licensed professional realtors in Louisiana, commercial, residential, investments, whatever you choose to do. These people, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you want to invest, these people are the best in the business. They really are. Tigerland Properties. Mainly, they work in the Boot area of Louisiana, down in South Louisiana, but truly, you could not be in better hands if you're buying or selling commercial, residential, or investing than Tigerland Properties. I encourage you to call them 225-320-3004. You'll want to make sure you're in good hands with commercial, residential, real estate, or investment, and they are the best.
Good morning. Welcome to For the Love of Freedom. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. It's 10 a.m. Central. And what if the greatest threat to sovereignty isn't an invading army? What if it's the battle for our minds, our faith, our institutions, our elections, and even our understanding of truth? Well, today, Brigadier General Blaine Holt joins me for a wide-ranging conversation about psychological warfare, the realities of fifth-generation warfare, the spiritual battle, election integrity, and geopolitical forces reshaping the world around us, because the greatest battles of our time may be the ones we never see. Well, we are coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Wherever you're watching or listening, please like it, share it, leave us comments, send stars. If you can't catch us live, you can always catch us on the audio-only platforms later the same day. And a reminder, we're also now on Substack, and there is a steady flow of fresh content over there. So please take a look and subscribe. It's Freedom State US. You can also support us by joining the Warrior Circle there or at freedomstate.us. Well, I'm your host, Danielle Walker, and on this show, we meet with people who have rejected the status quo, people who have broken with convention and broken with the belief that the TV or the textbooks have told them the truth, and each of my guests, in their own way, are working to bring freedom to the world. My guest today is a return guest. Let me bring him forward. And he doesn't really need an introduction anymore, even though he deserves an introduction. Good morning, General Holt. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be with you. How much has happened since we last talked?
I know. I was looking at all. I'd been making notes since we last talked about just, things that I had that I wanted to discuss with you. And things that happened 2 weeks ago feel like they were an absolute eternity ago.
I know. The president had his Thursday speech where he said he's going to lay out evidence, and they laid out certainly quite a bit on election integrity. And we'll call that the Thursday speech. Well, guess what? It's Thursday, tomorrow. And the part of that that's so interesting to me is, predictably, you saw so many people go, okay, well, great. Thank you for the speech. Where's the arrests?
Yeah.
And I'm just, to your point, I'm like, wow, that Thursday speech feels like it was last year. Because when you add up Iran, Cuba, the markets are getting crazy. You've got all these things in play, communism in New York, for gosh sakes. And so you're like, oh yeah, he had a speech. It was a big deal.
It was a really big deal, and the lead gets buried yet again.
Yeah, no, it really does. And for everybody listening who is sitting there going, okay, where are the arrests? Well, listen, I'm right there in the bunker with you saying the same thing, except let me give you a little insight on that. When you do something like that speech, when you unveil some of that evidence, and some of that evidence that I read on the White House website, that's treason at the capital crimes level. And so you would, yeah, yeah, I get that. Okay, well then I want to see collars all over the place.
Hmm.
But when you make a speech like that, there is a great advantage in making the speech, dropping the evidence, and then watch where all the criminals go, who they talk to, what they do, because you'll probably learn a lot more, and it'll be even more beneficial for you to do so. And President Trump has this history. Look what he did in Venezuela. He
Yeah.
kept poking them, and then when he poked the cartels for the first time, he left them alone after that. Why? Because they started making phone calls, and
Yeah.
we can get all that stuff. So I don't be disheartened. Don't say don't think this is just a flash in the pan. The people I get to talk to, so sources, friends of mine who are in the know, would tell you there is a lot more to come, and very soon.
Well, I am so thankful that you're starting on a sunny note because I was listening to your podcast yesterday, Dangerous Intellectuals, and I will say that it was the opposite of sunny. And so I wanted to share a scripture with you that uh, really spoke to me after, and it might make you laugh. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 1,
Mhm.
verse 18. And it says, "For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here's the truth. Are you sure you want the truth? I
Right.
I have had many family members call me up and they'll say, "Tell me about this," and I'm like, "Now, do you really want me to do
Yeah.
that?" And to be very fair on Dangerous Intellectuals, the episode before, I did serve everybody dessert first. So I gave you a big dose of Mark Atwood, who
Yeah,
calls himself
truly.
an apocal optimist, and was, not only is his cup half full, he's got 20 cups and they're all overflowing.
Yeah.
So we did the dessert first, but then we went into and here's what the little urchins are up to now and what they intend for you. And I think it's very important. And honestly, with James Martinez, a CIA whistleblower, MK Ultra whistleblower, uh, he, in 1 hour, he only described what I would call the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg.
I
But I
would
would refer
say,
you back to Mark Atwood, who would say, "Hey, God wins, and God is
yeah.
going to win." But it doesn't mean you're not going to go through a hell of an amusement park ride that you did not sign up for, don't want to be in.
1,000%. And how are you staying in peace in the midst of all of this? I mean, on the one hand, what Ecclesiastes tells us is that when much wisdom is much vexation. On the
Yes.
other hand, we know my people perish for lack of knowledge, and we've lived that in real time over the last 6 years, if not longer. I've been
Mhm.
awake to it for 6 years anyway. So
Yep.
how do you hold that tension and then still stay in joy?
Yeah. Well, first off, my persona is one that I see chaos and I get attracted to it like a moth to a light bulb. I'm just wired that way. But the other part is, and I was just going through this yesterday with a pastor that I like, and and I think it's very, very true. In times like this, don't start your day with anything other than an acknowledgement and a bond between you and God. If
Amen.
that's a prayer, fine. If that's meditative prayer and you need silence, fine. A moment of gratitude, go out and ground yourself with your feet, touch a tree, raise your hands up and say, "God, I see you. I know you're looking for us, and I know you're looking for me. Let your words be mine. Let your time reign." And say the Lord's Prayer if that's what it is, but start there because
Yeah.
that's what'll get your energy right. If you just wake up and dive into the headlines of the day, and here
Mhm.
comes the emergency broadcasting system, and Q is real, and I just watched Holt on voice to skull technology, boy, you're in for a rough
Right.
day at the funhouse.
It's true, it's so true, and, I learned that the hard way when I was working for Pfizer and covering the Middle East and Africa from New York. So I'd have really early mornings, and I learned I had to wake up probably an hour, maybe 2 hours even before a 5 AM call if I was going to be able to cope, and not live in reactive mode. If I was gonna be able to function at a high level and bring my best self to whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
it required that of me. And so
I found
it's not
I
that joy joy doesn't just appear. You have to go
no,
looking
and
for it.
when I'm at my worst, and we all have an at our worst part,
Yeah.
um, if I find that, I think early in COVID and certainly around the time of the fall of Kabul, I was enraged just about what I saw off of jets where I used to command the squadron members flying those
Wow.
jets. Um, I would be on social, somebody would say something, and man, I would snap like, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And I am ready to. And then you
Mhm.
take a step back and you look at it and you go, "Is that who I am? Am I that guy? Am I?" And then you're like, there's a part of me that is that guy,
Sure.
but in the acknowledgement of that, then it's time to come back. And we any of us can do this at any time. It's always available to us. You can go tag up with the Lord and get grounded and go, okay, you know what? If I stare at the rear view mirror, I'm going to hit something.
Yeah.
So what I'd rather do is look out the big windscreen and go, "Hey God, could you tell me where to go? I do think you should hold on to the wheel. Jesus will help you, but hold on to that wheel because you got to steer the car." But
A thousand
look
percent.
out the windshield and not at the rearview mirror, and understand that it's always available to you. You can be in the tumult of a day, get the worst news about a family member, about a kid or something, and you can stop the day and go, I got to tag up with the Lord right now. This
Yeah.
is this is too hard.
100%. It's so funny that you went that direction because earlier this week I was just sitting with the Lord and he was kind of explaining to me like this idea that, you can he's not against righteous anger, right? It's
Right.
the problem is, be angry and do not sin. And the interesting thing he revealed is not something I'd ever thought about before, which is don't let the sun go down on your anger. And I always thought about that as like anger, unrighteous anger. But if we're not supposed to have that in the first place, that's not what he would be talking about.
Sure.
He's talking about don't let the sun go down on even your righteous anger. Meaning that's not a place we can camp out for very long. And
Mm.
and even though it's a great motivating force inside of us, we have to be able to shift into exactly what you said. We've got to be able to shift into the joy of the Lord is my strength in order to fight this war in a sustainable way.
Well, there's a physics to this. David Hawkins writes these great books. Mark Atwood always gets to them, and it talks about just frequencies and where your
Mm,
frequency sits. And if you're low frequency, meaning you get up, you're upset, you dive into the paper's garbage, you then go through the worst of your day, you're sitting in a low frequency. This is where bad stuff happens eventually. It doesn't
yeah,
happen right away, but you're attracting bad stuff. And so you can be angry and there is righteous anger, but do understand it's an indulgence.
yeah,
You so so there is a connection that is frequency related to God, and we are connected. Your whole body is an antenna.
hmm,
And this is how prayer works. And I do see sufficient evidence out there in science behind the pineal gland and how it's been intentionally trashed so that our transceiver has only become a transmitter. Well,
wow,
transmit to God,
yeah,
but the idea of frequencies, if that was bunk, if that was magic, if that was nonsense, then tell me why Tesla coils are now curing cancer in folks across the country. Tell me why they're not studying how sound affects people and their personas. Tell me how these weapons that we covered in my podcast, voice to skull technology, doesn't work. So if you understand that they're weaponizing this type of stuff, then you are in a world of frequencies. You are in fact energy. We are souls, but wearing a human suit.
yeah,
And we have been denied this knowledge. I think the scientist Greg Braden, no matter what you think of him, he has embarked on an incredible project, which goes into the all of the scrolls and the documents and the things that were supposed to be not available to us because of the Council of Nicaea.
hmm,
And um, God isn't telling you, no, I had a human being on the planet and he censored this stuff. What didn't you understand about that? The reason he's going down that is because Greg sees the frequency physics war and the technology rise putting humanity into a place it's never been in before. And that is, we see technologies like AI, Neuralink, merging the human body with machinery, chips. Um, that humanity is at this place where we have to decide: are we keeping our humanity, or are we really going to talk about this transhumanism movement from these technological oligarchs as anything other than a demonic threat?
Yeah.
And what he's doing is he's examining it. And what I would say is, please don't discount that guys who wrote books like The Physics of God, Joseph Siebel, that these are great books, and you should understand that these are guides that will help you understand that we are frequency, we are energy, and we are souls before we're ever human beings. And and the enemy has used this against us and held this back from us for far too long now.
Yeah.
And we've got to awaken, and this is all about the awakening. But one of the books I loved when I was a young one growing up learning about leadership is a book called Do It. I think you can still get it online. But it was a bunch of little excerpts and quips and wisdoms about being active. And then there's another one called Fish, which is a management book. And both books will posit the same thing: you get to choose your attitude.
Mm,
It's a choice you make. So if I get
yeah.
up and I'm irritated and angry about something happening in my city council and they want to remove water rights and all of that, okay, I'm furious.
Yeah.
But how long I'm furious, I get to make that choice.
Yeah.
So I understand it's an indulgence. I understand I'm angry, but what I'll do is go, okay, in 30 minutes you're going to stop that, and you're
That's
going to
good.
change that, and you're going to go start looking at happy stuff. If that's scripture for you, fine. Nice music, great. Who cares? I go talk to my chickens. I'll
Yeah.
go out there to Gabby and I'll go, hey Gabs, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
And so find the way to recover, because the enemy's going to use those frequencies against you.
Yeah. Now, General, when did you realize we're in the middle of a spiritual war? Because that can be a hard reality to come into. Like for instance, my awakening started about 2020, and like many people's, and I had a really hard time coming to grips with the fact that there were really Satanists. Like people were really, I thought maybe like, oh, they did some kind of alignment that, was, they didn't really realize. Like the idea that people would be consciously covenanting themselves with evil to get ahead was just so baffling to me, and so just I could not get my arms around it. I have since been able to get my arms around it a little bit better. What was that kind of realization like for you?
For me, it's so gradual. It's so
Yeah.
gradual to get to the place, because as a young officer, I really followed our training, which was trust leadership, have faith in your leadership. We're not political. We don't care about left, right, up, down. We serve the Constitution and our nation. And so along that journey and in higher levels of leadership, I would find myself in places where I would be in the presence of some of these oligarchs, for lack of a better term. And I was always struck by being in the presence of dark energy and knowing what it was, but I couldn't put a name to it. I
Yeah.
couldn't even then tell you, oh, that feeling I got was dark energy,
Yeah.
was evil around me. I couldn't put a name to that. I just knew it existed, and I didn't know why. And then in my own journey, going through different military events, and then ever higher levels of leadership, getting exposed to things like the decision making cycle and process around Benghazi, Crimea, other things. Then I started to wonder and get more curious about things like, mistakenly, I just went, oh, well, we've got a cabal in the United States. We've got a this, we've got a that.
Yeah.
I couldn't really put names to it that were very accurate. And then I really went in to start researching after my military career things like Operation Gladio, the Venetians, the fall of Rome, who these financialists and cults really have been
Right.
throughout these histories. And then you get into the books you're not allowed to read. You're not supposed to read. Book of Enoch, you're not supposed to touch that. What are you thinking? Book of
Right.
Thomas? No, you're not. Don't you go there. And you can even find pastors who will go, well, now you're just heading into Satan land. And it's like, no, I'm being a curious human being, and God didn't say I couldn't. So you know
That's
what?
right.
I'm going to continue on this. Then we get to COVID. Then we get to the shot. Now we get to things that are really tapping into the spiritual realm. And that's when Antifa started burning down stuff. I think that's when the final bow broke in my own life to go, it's a spiritual war.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual war. And in my own reading, it's embarrassing to be such an older adult and go, look, I feel like I know the Bible. I know I'm a believer. I'm a good believer. And can I look myself in the mirror and go, I've literally read the Bible word for word? And I did it for two motivations. One, you got to tighten up your walk with God because this is a spiritual war and you better
Yeah.
figure this out. Two, this is also a history book. I got to figure out what happened
Yeah.
because it's part of this. And it's very enormously helpful. In fact, I've done that 3 times now, going meticulously through the Ethiopian Bible, looking at all the stuff that people would say, don't you dare look at that. And it's like, oh, you don't want me to look at that? Then I'm looking at it.
Yep.
Um, and so,
Do you have a
so
version of the Ethiopian Bible you like, by the way? I've had one in my Amazon cart and haven't pulled the trigger because
yeah,
I haven't been sure
I
which one.
have it. I have it right here. Um, let me see. It's the complete Ethiopian Bible, translated by Ken. Can't read him. Ken
Okay.
Rings. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called a modern translation. And again, I like what Greg Braden's doing. I like what all these folks are doing. I like some of the folks who are trying to pick apart, and just think through some of this UAP, UFO crap. Um, and then the other thing is the enemy will take legitimate stuff like extraterrestrials, legitimate stuff, legitimate physics stuff, and they'll use it against you. Here's a
Yeah.
hologram. Here's me putting voices in your head. That's why prayer, if you're going to pray something in today's tumultuous times, oh gosh, make sure you've got a discernment prayer once a week.
Yeah.
And how easy is it for now in this world of AI, deep fakes, voice to skull technology, 6G, for me to deceive you? How hard would it be for me to put a hologram up in the air that looks like Jesus is coming and then give you instructions in your head?
Right.
So you've got to pray for discernment. And what we're taught in Scripture is, my sheep will know my call,
Yeah.
but you got to ask.
You do. Yeah. And the full armor of God as well.
Oh, I was just going through Ephesians 6:12 this morning. It's a big deal. It's a big
It's
deal, and that's the thing. A lot of people think these are just pretty flowery Bible stories, and it's like, no, these are instructions.
no, it's true. And for the first time, probably it might have been last year, but it may have even been the year before that. We had Craig Sawyer on the show. Do you know him by
Mm-mm.
chance?
I've not had the fortune to meet him.
He's got an organization called Veterans for anyway, I can't remember the exact acronym, but basically they go after the perpetrators of human trafficking.
Oh, good.
And they're not necessarily doing the child rescue part, they're going after the bad guys part.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when he was talking, I realized that like he literally does have a shield of faith. Like he is literally using the shield of faith to go into these places. And it became real to me that at that time that the armor of God is actually playing a role in physical reality whenever we're in the will of God, right? Like he's
Right.
going into places he's been called to go. So he's able to use that legally, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying
Well,
it.
let me throw another one at you. up here in Coeur d'Alene, we have a national organization that a dear friend of mine founded, and it's called The Innocent, and
Mm.
it's theinnocent.org. His name is Nate Lewis, very impressive man, had his own troubles young. And they have a team that goes around the country and trains tactics, techniques, and procedures for law enforcement to get a much higher conviction rate on
Wow.
these people. And they're just doing. And again, he will go to the most dangerous places, and there is no way he's not doing that without the armor of God. And he
Yeah.
is a deep follower and deep
Mm.
believer.
You almost have to be, right? I mean, bravado can only get you so far whenever you're looking
There's
in
another
that level of
reason
darkness.
you need protect. Okay, so you need protection from seeing the
Yeah.
worst that evil and humanity have to offer. And I hate to use the word humanity in this because it's just
Right.
what evil has to offer. And in my military career, I have seen the very, very noblest and best of humans, and I have seen the darkest, worst, most disgusting things you can possibly imagine. And people who do this work, like we're talking about, they look. God has them protected because
Yeah.
when you think about just the trauma of doing that work and understanding what's happening with these little babies,
Yeah.
it's horrific, and not everybody's cut out for that work.
Yeah.
And that's where my friend Nate Lewis, I study him because I'm like, how are you so bulletproof? By the way, he's also a guest on Dangerous Intellectuals. You can go
Is
find that
he? I need to
episode.
go
But
listen to that one.
yeah, he's amazing, and and so people who are able to do that work, I just I have, they have my highest level of respect because I'm not. Truth be known, I'm not altogether sure that I have what it takes to do something like that. We
Right.
all have our calling and we're doing different things. But being Mr. Warfighter guy, C-17 guy, and all these places around the world, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure I have that medal,
Yeah.
but I'm certainly willing to support it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can support it. I'm not sure that I'm called to it either, but it's definitely um
But look at Mike
just
Arnold. I had Mike Arnold 5 weeks ago,
this is
and
the guy going into Nigeria.
yeah, and
Amazing.
instead of look, there's nothing wrong with donating to a very good charity. Donate to
Right.
Mike Arnold. He's a good guy. But
Exactly.
Mike heard a different call. Mike
Yeah.
heard God say, "Get your happy butt out of your chair, book a ticket, go to Nigeria, and go see the Christian slaughter. Go learn all about Nigeria. Go get yourself enmeshed in their politics, and then go raise Cain with the Trump organization to get them involved." He's doing
Yeah.
all those things,
It's
but he has
amazing.
done. I mean, do you understand how dangerous it is to be in somebody else's country and throwing a rock at the existing government saying you can't
Right.
kill Christians?
Right.
So you can't tell me he doesn't have divine protection
It's
because
true.
in these countries, your life is not worth 25 cents
Yeah.
and they will just off you. So
Mm.
there's some reason they didn't do that to Mike.
Yeah.
And there's only one reason, and it's an obvious reason.
It is an obvious reason. As you think back, maybe switching gears a little bit, but it's kind of, I guess, somewhat in the same vein. Going back to Trump's speech on Thursday. First of
Mhm,
all, I need to give you like a standing ovation because you nailed the timing. You have been saying for months
mhm.
that if it didn't happen by mid-July, it we were going to be up a worse creek than we could imagine. So here we are. He gave his speech right in the middle of July. I guess what predictions do you have for how this plays out now? I really appreciate you saying, it looks like essentially the rats are running around at the bottom of a sinking ship. Uh, do you have any sense on, where and when we might see a roll up? One of the pieces that's got a question mark for me was Secretary Mullins' presser the following day, where he talked about, we're going to do this report and then there'll be a patch for the machines.
Sure.
And I'm like, there's no patch for the machines. The patch
No,
for the
none.
machines is a hammer that takes out the machines.
That would be your only path forward. And with where the technology is going now, there was an announcement this morning, in fact, by a company in Germany. ironically named Saxon. They're called Saxon, and they just built the Saxon qubit chip that takes quantum qubit computing from where it sits now, 10 times qubits. And I'll leave it to your listeners to go figure out what a qubit is. But super fast computing like nothing we have on the planet. They can now go to 100 times. So then what that should tell us all is, in the advent of computing power like that, which will be online, ironically, and available in 3 months,
Wow.
can crack any system, period, end of story. So if you're using a machine to do anything, it's suspect. It's suspect. You cannot sit there and say, well, our voting machines here are unhackable. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. They're not unhackable, actually. And so
Yeah.
there is only one answer, that the machines have to go, or we don't have a republic.
Yeah.
Now, back to predictions. I'd love to say that I'm really great at predictions, but quite honestly, I am the secret guy inside the White House, and I just give them little script cards and say, hey, Mr. President, you got to get this wrapped up by July 15th.
Yeah,
No,
that's why I like
yeah,
talking to you.
yeah. No, I wish I had that power. I don't. So it's actually strategic logic that I have posted in my own strategic review of what's happening. The midterms, to me, are a shot clock of sorts, and if the election integrity is not there, if there is not, that's one thing, because if you can still cook the elections, you've lost, you'll be impeached, that's the end of it. So that's one.
Yeah.
Two, you got a problem with your base. If there's not to be a season of accountability and folks getting arrested for this stuff, then you've broken faith with your base,
Yeah.
and the base is going to act up at the midterms. And I would love to say that the American electorate is very pragmatic and says, well, we can't go with the other side because that's communism and we'll all be torched. No, people get angry and they'll vote against you.
Yep.
And that's the psychology of it. So then that makes my holding out the midterms as the shot clock, what my analysis is kind of pinned off of. And that's why I said, after July 15th, he made a speech on July 16th. We'll talk about it later. But after July 15th, we get too close into the midterms. Now everybody would be armed with media counters to say, oh, you're just attacking your opposition this way, and this is what it is. But by laying out the evidence on the 16th, by getting that stuff out there, he has created a freak out on both sides of the aisle, which he should, because there is no aisle.
Right.
Everybody just understand that. And here we go. So now what comes? What's next? I think we are going to see some arrests. I think we're going to see the president open up new fronts in this war that need to be opened up. What is happening on the medical side? What is happening on the financial side? I think that's actually the next shoe to drop, because you're being stolen from, and they're going to wreck the financial system. So we're going to find out if Scott Bessent is ready with a new monetary system, because that's what's coming next. It's called a liquidity crisis that makes 2008 look stupid. You should really look to 1929 as a better example of what I think they're going to try to do. And this is how the enemies fight in a fifth generation war. It's going to be a back and forth, but the accountability piece, I think is next.
Do you have a sense for what, because you are connected to very brilliant and connected people, what the financial piece, what does this Saxon chip mean for crypto?
Well, that's a great question. How secure is crypto?
Right.
And is it quantum encrypted or not? Now, I would look at the ISO 2022 standard. Where is that level of encryption for those wallets and coins? I think that there should be an oversight hearing in the advent of qubit computing, because after all, the Treasury has recognized that crypto can be an asset on the Treasury's and the Fed's books, and if that's the case, you've got security issues with the rise of quantum computing. Now, I have sister companies in my Rolodex that I work with, like Veritex, Veritx. they're working on quantum encryption. They have a first level quantum encryption. So it's not that we're completely vulnerable, but you're asking the exact right questions. How secure are we? And we need to find that out. But again, it's just, you'll if you put your hand up to your ear, it's like, wow, I hear artillery fire off in the distance. Yes, I get that, but there's rocket fire 5 meters from us right now, and that's where this
Yeah,
war is.
100%. And just to kind of continue on that circle, do you think that has anything to do with the rise of these AI data centers? The fact that there will be quantum computing now. I mean, there's quantum processing and quantum encryption. Or is there any silver lining we can see to the AI data centers is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So again, this is part of the battlefield,
Yeah.
and it's gone largely unchecked, and it's a place where we need to ask some brutally tough questions of the Trump administration themselves. He's
Yeah.
got some very interesting relationships. If you recall, day 5, I think, or day 3 of the administration, they rolled out Larry Ellison and a bunch of the other
Right.
tech bros to talk about Stargate and all these other
Yeah.
things. And then we have cajillions and cajillions of dollars that are getting thrown into data centers across the country. Nobody really, all these former climate change warriors are now seemingly totally okay with these things sucking all the water out of your ground and
Right.
taking all the power that you have. Um, so here's the thing. We have to ask, what are these things being used for? That's one. That's probably the most important thing. We know some of those answers, not all of them.
Hmm.
And then the next thing is, how are you going to do those things sustainably without wrecking and killing off people, destroying private property, and respecting the rights of Americans? That's the next thing.
Right.
What's the benefit? Where is this going? What's this powering? What's the vision? And if it's such a great thing, why did you skip right past public commentary and that type of thing? You've got states and you've got federal government that are now looking to, oh no, actually it was the EPA. The EPA is now putting out a reg that on these data centers, we don't need a public commentary period.
Come on.
So this is under the Trump administration. So
Yeah.
this, look, I am building a technology company that is very interested in selling into this space with advanced construction materials, but we want to be in a market position where we're selling safe materials to absorb heat, radiation, do internal loop cooling, accommodate power needs with different methodologies, turbine gas generation, hemp generated gasolines and diesels, all the things that can nullify these. So why isn't that being embraced? And so again, these are the questions that we have to demand answers to. Because when I look at things like cameras and microphones and license plate readers going up all over American cities,
Yeah.
well, this is what I see. I see soul cages. I see them having the ability for you to never, ever um, have redress with your government, whether you have a gun or not. The
Yeah.
Second Amendment's supposed to protect that right. Not if I can do pre-crime and track all your thoughts and know exactly where your car is and you and all of your thoughts all the time. And then if you look at those other technologies, 6G, V2K, and all of that, you're like, whoa, 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 what are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, go to Oxford, England, and ask yourself what we're doing, because you'll get an answer. That's a 15-minute city, and the people are not pleased. So tell me the difference between a 15-minute city and a concentration camp in Warsaw in 1939. And what I'll tell you is it's the creature comforts, the supply chain, and the illusion they're trying to pitch that you're still a free human being. You're
Yeah.
not.
That's absolutely sick. And I don't know. There has been some outcry. There's been plenty of public outcry here in Louisiana about the AI data centers in particular, because they're popping up, like you said, without any opportunity for public comment. Of course, the legislature laid the groundwork here for non-disclosure agreements between our economic development agency
Those should be illegal.
and yeah, they absolutely should be illegal. It's absolutely disgusting. And what you said about the midterms is also playing out here in Louisiana in very real time. So Trump's endorsee, Julia Letlow,
Hmm.
won um, won, the Republican primary a couple weeks ago. Well, she is engaged to the top lobbyist for carbon capture and sequestration at
Yep.
Jones Walker. So if you look at that, people are super steamed here. I mean, steamed, and there is a black Democrat farmer named Jamie Davis, who's raised $2 million, and he is anti-CCS because his family has spent some time building their acreage over the last, he has a family farm. So people look at him and they say he's very likable, he seems very trustworthy,
I'd vote
and
for him.
we're going to
I'd,
vote
I'd,
for
I'd
him.
vote.
And
I'd vote for him in 5 seconds.
isn't that amazing? And we're like, okay, well, what does this reckoning really need to be about? And I would like to hope that, in part, some of these people, like you're talking about, the Larry Ellisons and their ilk, Peter Thiel, ugh, and you think about some of these politicians as well that are being pushed out into the spotlight. And I think about how in Trump's first term, he did a lot of pushing people out into the spotlight so that they could expose themselves. And I'm just prayerful, General, love your take on this. Do you have some hope that he's pushing these people out into the spotlight so that they can show who they are?
Well, I hope so. I always want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but here's what I also believe. You cannot take the Trump administration and go, "Oh, they're the good guys."
Right.
I would ask you a question if that was asked. Okay, who on that administration are the good guys? In
Exactly.
other words, we, the people, have to aggressively work hard to get the truth in front of President Trump because there are several issues that he's filtered on, and I'm working my butt off to try to screen my head off for anybody who
Yeah.
will listen. That with regards to pharma, with regards to vaccines, with regards to shutting out medical innovation, with regards to chemical trails,
Mm,
with regards to use of glyphosate in our country,
yeah.
regards to the war against the small farmer in this nation. Um, the It goes on and on and on. In
It
other
does.
words, President Trump is fighting a very noble fight. He is, but he's one man,
Yeah.
and he's got a lot of folks around him. And I am not a fan of this chief of staff of his, not by any stretch of the imagination. And there are so what I'm saying is he's got some very serious, competent gate guards around him. And the president, I think, if he understood 2020 vision, some of the things that the leadership of his agencies were pitching, he'd fire them all tomorrow. But I also understand what bandwidth is, and he's taking on a very noble and good fight internationally and here at home.
Yeah.
And so it's a tussle even in his own administration. And this is where I think it ultimately goes. First off, he's got to secure the midterms. He's got to put that away. If that's with what I'm talking about, the accountability piece, wiping out the machines, fine, great.
Yeah.
But then there's a second war right over the horizon. In addition to the accountability piece, in addition to getting the midterms squared away, he's talked about the fight against the communists,
You're
and
reading
and,
my mind.
and he should do that. But then he's going to have to determine whether this government, and I mean federal, state, and local, is this government compromised in all branches? Is it incapacitated? If it is, well, then we've got to shut it down. And then we're going to have to do whatever the Constitution requires. Is that going to be martial law? I don't know. But I do know this: we will never have in our history a better chance to close out the American Revolutionary War than we do right now. And
Yeah.
so, for those who want to get angry at President Trump, throw a rock at him, vote against him, do whatever, I will remind you that Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris were on their way to take us to the Mamdani dreams of complete communism.
Yeah.
and complete appropriation of all of your private property. And if you don't believe me, just go back to the 2016 essay written at the World Economic Forum, where you will own nothing and you will be happy, and they mean it.
Yeah. And on this note of the communists or the DSA, whoever you want to call them, the
No, they're
Mondami.
communists. We should put the right name on them.
Okay, as we talk about the communists, is there a path forward in the vision of our founders that allows us to coexist with them? This has been something I have been struggling with because what happens to them in 1776 2.0? I think there's an argument to be made that's very reasonable that says they have literally declared war on us, the
Mhm.
people. They have declared war on the true country itself, on the Constitution. How does their how do their concepts, their ideologies, their beliefs get to stick around?
Yeah, well, based on their own words, get rid of the presidency, do this, do that. It doesn't matter. Look, the oath that we swear to the Constitution, for those of us who have, for those who hold office now, for those who wear uniforms right now, is very clear. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign
Yeah,
and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
same.
So if you have a group in the United States that is an avowed enemy of the Constitution, it is a no-brainer. So then you start with legal cost impositions. So who's the little urchin who came up with that crap that they were going to roll up the presidency? And this is what their plans are for the DSA and all of that crap. It's like,
Mhm.
you have free speech. You don't get to be an enemy of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So create the cost imposition. And then when you have the violence occur, Antifa, BLM, some active shooters, some trans kid did whatever, roll them up, make a big example out of them. And
Yeah.
and then what you'll find is communists never have courage. Well, they'll create violence and terrorism, they'll do lots of things to you. They never have courage. They're fighting against something, they're not fighting for something. They're apparatchiks and Bolsheviks. And this is all fashioned out of London, the city of London. People think it's a Russian concept. No, that's crap. It was manufactured out of London. Das
Hmm.
Kapital from Karl Marx, who was a drunkard and abuser, killed his kids, and wrote the Communist Manifesto. This was all exported to create the Russian Revolution for a very friendly to the United States Tsar regime.
Hmm.
You've got to know your history. And then when you know your history really, really, then you'll understand why communism is antithetical to this nation. And I would totally support us having laws against that. I
Yeah.
don't think Joe McCarthy had the right answer. I think there is a thing called due process. I'm cool with that. But also, if you want to espouse right now, you can't say I'm going to do something bad to President Trump and expect that there's
Right.
not going to be a Secret Service guy at your door. So why is it okay to be a group that says we're going to take out the Constitution
Yeah.
when all of
100%.
these so-called patriots who are in? I love when they say I'm serving in the Congress. Well, if you swore an oath to the Constitution, um, I don't care if you're a purple-haired congressman from Wichita. You need to support ending the communism.
Yeah.
But they don't, and they don't support legal, honest, and fair elections. I mean, for gosh sakes, they're fighting across the country right now for the rights of illegals to vote in elections. AOC's words, her own words.
Yeah.
So we're either going to take it serious or we're not. I think the president's on the right track. This is the president you got. You're already in the airplane. The airplane's in the sky, and the president's the pilot. So, other than writing down helpful suggestions on a bev nap and sending them forward, I'm not sure you've got much else you can do except for do your best as an American to point out where we, the people, are concerned. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Lee Zeldin, I'm concerned about chemtrails. I'm
Yeah.
concerned about the immunity deals you're offering to Monsanto, Brooke Rollins. I'm
What is
concerned.
up with that?
Yeah, what is up with that? It's big business, the corporatists, which, by the way, those are not capitalists. Those roll up right to the city of London, and they are
Mm.
communists. So, money talks. We have an incapacitated government in many aspects. I would say it's my argument, my opinion, and this is our fight. We're either going to do it or we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Here's the good news: we're going to know by those midterms if we're going to do it. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to know in August if we're going to do it. I think we are going to do it. I feel very optimistic that we're on the right track here. But what I will always be is a little ankle biting chihuahua screaming, you need to now do something about the tech bros, because I'm not planning on living in anybody's soul cage.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
No.
And I'm watching police across this nation take pictures from flock cameras and show up at people's doorsteps. That is illegal.
Yeah.
You have Fourth Amendment rights. And the tech bros, they don't care about them at all.
Mm-mm.
At all. They're wanting to up the ante.
Did you see that? I think it was Dr. Mary Talley Bowden reached out to her sheriff
Yep.
in the Houston area and
Mhm.
said that, and he said that those flock cameras are costing us $3,000 a
Mhm.
camera. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So you, with your taxpayer dollars, so you can lock yourself up in a soul
Right.
cage.
Yeah. I look, I do support the destruction of public property on that. I really do. And I just have this sense, and I think I sent you this article I wrote
Mhm.
about it, that this could potentially be the issue. This is, to me, the Boston Tea Party of our time, is getting rid of these flock cameras.
It is. It absolutely is. And honestly, these Fabians, the current iteration of them, these Malthusians, look, they've written this all down. They believe what they say. They believe that we're overpopulated. They
Yeah.
believe that you don't have a right to your private property. They believe that they should be able to monitor you every single step of the way and even get into your thinking and your thoughts, and that they can have algorithms that'll predict whether you're going to do something bad. George Orwell, if he could live today, would look around and say, I wouldn't have written down about this because I wouldn't have thought this was realistic. But
By the
we're on
way,
that path.
on that topic of George Orwell, I believe you probably follow Chris Paul from Badlands.
Yeah, I do.
O Okay, so he put something on his Substack this week that sparked my attention that was kinda crazy. I'll send it to you, but
Mhm.
basically, he said he had a stray thought, and I just loved that turn of phrase, so I looked at what he was saying. It was on his Substack, and he said that he asked the machine, if the book, 1984, uh, became a reality or really happened, what were the precipitating events that enabled that?
Mhm.
And AI gave him the craziest answer, and I hope I can get these dates right, but I believe he said that, or the machine said that in April 24th, 1984, is that right? April? So I'm if I'm not 100% right, I'm pretty close.
Mhm.
April 24th, 1984 was when Reagan gave H.W. Bush these crisis powers. 6 days later, on the 30th, Reagan was shot. Something like 6 days later, Bush puts those crisis powers into action. The very following day is the first entry in George Orwell's book.
That's so interesting.
Isn't
That,
that
yeah.
fascinating?
I mean, this is one thing we do know about the enemy, and it goes right on back to the times of the Venetians. They they hover around ritual, they hover around numerology, they hover around symbolism, and they've proven it time and time again. And so the numbers, the dates things occur, they matter to them.
Yeah.
And again, while we're living this human experience, it's my prayer that we are in fact living in incredible days where we actually get to see what becomes of them who have tried to dominate us, depopulate us, lock us up in soul cages. And honestly, I think what I see is a rebirth of the human spirit happening right now, because this is one of the things that is true, and Mark Atwood and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, is we do have a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
The herd knows when it's under attack. The herd knows when something's not quite right. You can't put a finger on it. You just know something's off. And
Mhm.
that is your little voice inside you screaming at you, pay more attention to me, and go find out. And we're so far beyond the time of 2020 where it was all about, oh, well, you're a tinfoil hat wearer. Oh, well, you're a this, you're a that. And it's like, call me all the names you want. Could care less. Does not matter. What I understand is the spiritual war is raging.
Yeah.
The enemy now knows there is an awakening happen. It makes them more desperate. The president is looking like he's about to get on it in a way that we have wanted, and we're there. And here's the thing. Let's take the bad side. Let's say the president fails. Let's say they tag him, or something bad happens, or we just go in and have stolen elections, and it all is going in the wrong direction. You're there is the human spirit, but then there's the American spirit, and there are enough of us, those of us who drank from garden hoses, and our parents had to be reminded that they even had kids at 10 o'clock at night,
Right.
mornings, that we know where our rights come from. They don't come
Yeah.
from the document. The document is actually telling the government. Constitution tells the government, you're not allowed to mess with these people's rights endowed by their creator.
Yeah.
So now you have the tech bros who are actively saying, we're just going to ignore it. Just like you have your municipalities ignoring the public debate about data centers. We're just going to ignore it. No, you're not. No, you're not. We insist. So if we lose on the battlefield, which we think we're going to win on here, into the there's other ways to solve this problem, and they're quite well documented in history.
That's true.
And
I pray it doesn't come to that, though.
I don't want it to come to that. That's why there are people in and around this administration who I talk to. And sometimes late at night when nobody's looking, I am talking to them very loudly, aggressively loudly, almost emphatically.
Excellent.
That they need to consider the other fronts in this war, and that some of the people that the president thinks are loyal to him are anything but.
Well, General, I want to be respectful of your time, but let me know. I wanted to talk a little bit of, well, I have about 100 other questions we could get into about kind of the geopolitical space. How are you on time? Just keep me honest.
We can go a little while longer.
Okay. So one of the things on the geopolitical front that I have been really wanting to talk to you about, because you were the deputy representative to NATO, 2 weeks, as we said, an absolute eternity ago, but that's all it was. 2 weeks ago was the NATO summit. Of course, Trump got this massive reception by President Erdogan. He basically said that the only reason he went, he didn't basically say, he literally said the only reason he was in Turkey was because Turkey was hosting. And looking back on that, you think about the fact that hostilities seemed to increase with Iran after that, or there was a renewal of fire towards Iran after that. Is any of that work together?
It all works together. It's all completely linked. First off, the president recognizes this is a global war.
Yeah.
And this war is, you've heard me say it a million times, and I'll say it a million more. This war should be called the war of the sovereigntists versus the globalists.
Yeah.
Sovereigntists being we the people, whose rights come from their creator, and we insist that we're not depopulated, and that we get to live these abundant lives in this human experience we're having here that our creator gave us. That's the sovereigntists, and President Trump is leading the effort for the sovereigntists. Oh, and it's ugly, but we're doing it. Now, there's the globalists. You can know them as communists. You can know them as Fabians, Malthusiasts, eugenicists. They go by many names. They go back to the fall of Rome. And the president is one of the few presidents we've had. There have been others who have stood in their way and said, not going to happen. Well, the others were shot and killed.
That's right.
And so our president, call it divine protection, that's what I call it, is waging the fight against them. And so when you look, if that's how you frame the war, now look at Ukraine, Russia, now look at Iran, Israel, United States. Those are but battlefields in this global war.
Yeah.
But those battlefields are many. They're in the financial markets. They are in the cartel drug running. They're in the human trafficking. They're in every element because this is a fifth generation warfare. And these tools are all in play. Great deceptions, bought off media, bought off politicians, extorted everybody. So what has the president done? He has taken the fight right to them. He started by going to the G7 and said, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
He essentially told Keir Starmer, you're going to resign on this day. And Keir did
Wasn't that
exactly what he was
so
told.
pretty? I just
And
made
then he
me
embarrassed
giggle
him
with
on the way out
delight.
the door. He rubbed dog
Yeah.
crap right in his face on the way out the door. And then he
Amazing.
gets to the NATO summit, and it's all champagne wishes and caviar dreams. But behind closed doors, it wasn't that way, I can promise you. And for NATO to keep NATO, the never-ending gobstopper of U.S. taxpayer dollars, they just don't want to lose NATO right now. Yet they've all misbehaved. So I'm certain the president, who's a deal maker, said, "Yeah, you can keep NATO, but here's the new price." And I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see things like Greenland, the Falkland Islands, the Caribbean extirpating itself of European influence, and that the colonization days are actually gone. I think you're going to see a lot less U.S. forces in Europe, which will, unfortunately for my European friends, I think is on its way to becoming a backwater, filled with civil wars, race wars, great poverty, and will we come save Europe again? Well, not until we get ourselves righted. And I've talked to a lot of my European friends about this. You know, as this plays out, will America come back here and liberate us? I said, you mean again? No, I don't believe we'll have the capability to do that because we've got our own problems. And European folks need to take up and solve your problems. And if you think that more Ursula von der Leyen and more unelected Malthusians who want to crush you and enslave you is the answer, and you're not going to do anything about it, well, why is that my problem? Because we have existential problems here.
Right. Our own house is on fire.
Yeah, and so that's what I think the president has done with the NATO summit. He's basically laying down terms. And they're going to keep fighting, and they are continuing to fight. There is another belligerent in the Middle East that we never talk about. That's Lloyd's of London, an agent of the City of London.
Yeah.
And they tried once again. They're, if you think that the Houthis threatening to shut down the Bab al-Mandab, I can't say that term, the straits near the Gulf of Aden, then you're wrong. They're throwing everything back at President Trump with the kitchen sink, because they don't want to lose this domineering control over routes and resources they have held since the day of the Venetians.
So this is interstage left, Scott Bessent?
Oh, yeah. Drying up all the money, taking it all away. The dollar ain't what she used to be. Kevin Warsh, he said in his own words, here at the Fed, it's going to be regime change. That doesn't sound like something that the monsters of Jekyll Island would have approved of.
No,
Paul Warburg probably would not approve of Kevin Warsh. So are we heading to a new monetary system? Well, I think it's a required element on the path to our freedom, but will we do it? Will we do it? Or will we be sitting here going, gosh, Blaine, you were so silly. You had all these dreams about how all was going to work out. I would say then, and I would say right now, the enemy gets a vote. This is a war. It's not, our victory is not assured. Now, Mark Atwood's right. God wins. But we don't get to know how God wins.
Right. Or when.
Along the way. So before you get your sunglasses out, get the Dom Perignon out and go, hey, we're going to have a big party tonight. I would hold off on that. Keep it on ice. We've got a lot more.
What do you make of Bessent coming out last week pretty quietly? I don't think this made too many headlines, and saying that they've audited Fort Knox and all the gold is there.
Yeah. Can't believe he would put his credibility on the line like that if it wasn't there. But I also, I don't really believe in coincidences too much. And the other thing that's happening is the day after tomorrow, on the 24th of July, the Chinese are supposed to take over the price of gold. Meaning They have their own exchange. They've been getting it ready, and they're going to free float. Jay Martin, a great macroeconomist. He's a young guy. He's well, sorry for me. Everybody's a young guy. He he analyzes this shift that Shanghai has actually been upending the West's lock on manipulation of metals prices,
So this
and
is about paper versus real
paper
gold.
versus physical. And if what he is saying is true, then gold is about to take a trip upwards because the
Wonderful.
manipulation is about to come off the table. So now you would say, well, wait a minute, China's our enemy. Okay, which China? The
Right.
China that is connected under one Jiabao to the city of London, or the China under Xi Jinping, who is under a coup attempt in his world nearly daily. And so we're going to find out, but I would refer everybody to go back to, I think it was November of last year, no, early December, when the president released his authored national security strategy. And what do you find? Spheres of influence and arc:
Yep.
America, Russia, China.
China.
Right.
That's right. It's so fascinating, and I believe isn't President Xi scheduled to come to the U.S. in just like a couple weeks?
He is, but Willie,
Huh?
I think we have enough problems in our relationship right now. You know, the arc doesn't mean we're all going to be friends and allies, because we're not. So with what we're doing in Iran, with the things that are going on, and now President Trump's Thursday speech pointing out Chinese interference in our elections, um, I, I I don't think he'll come. I don't see that in the offing. But you know, I've been wrong many times before. I could be wrong now. But I think, and I also think that President Xi has too many domestic security problems at home from the other factions of the elders.
Yeah. Well, we know how much can change in just one day. So, I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. Well, anything, a lifetime happens in
Yeah, if
two
you don't like
weeks.
how things are going, stick around. It'll
Exactly.
change.
All right. I'll wrap up here pretty soon, but just some questions for you on Israel.
Sure.
Uh, what in the world is going on with the Senate believing that it has the right to tie? Is it the Senate that believes it has the right to tie our military intelligence into the Israelis?
Yeah. It certainly, Tom Cotton thinks so, for sure. And he got that out of committee, and it's in the NDAA, and they're voting on it right now.
I mean,
Um,
we can be pro Israel until we're blue in the face, but that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm glad you're parsing it that way. So what you're going to find in the mainstream is, if you say this is inappropriate, well, you're an anti-Semite. If you say um, we've been doing this forever anyway with the Israelis, this just puts a finer point on it, that's also ridiculous.
Okay, yeah,
So
let's look at all the chaos that's
yeah,
caused.
let's unpack this a little bit. Israel's an ally. We have a military to military relationship with them that has been established. That military to military relationship ebbs and flows. It is controlled by the executive branch of this country. So, through the State Department, the president can change foreign policy. What this does is it actually takes a foreign country, in this case, an ally. You can insert any variable you want. You can insert the UK, you can insert France, you can insert Japan, Germany, doesn't matter. A foreign country, we are codifying into law. That's what an act is, the National Defense Authorization Act, that with Section 219 posted by the or foisted by the Congress, uh, near full military integration. That means you can have offices in our Pentagon, and we nothing we can do about it. And then Section 622, which is, yes, we are compelled by force of law to share all of our intelligence with the country of Israel. Now, here's the added element to this: you're making this bulletproof to any future president because it's got the force of law.
Yeah.
So the point is, this is antithetical to the Constitution. George Washington warned about this exact same thing. I think the reason that they've tried to do this is because I think they understand that this war is going to involve a lot of, shall we say, people who have problems in the intelligence community, also known as the deep state. and I don't mean the whole intelligence community, so don't anybody get me wrong. Oh, Holt doesn't like the FBI and he doesn't like the CIA. It's like which FBI, which CIA?
Right.
So everybody's got a lot of problems. Is this the mother of all get out of jail free cards and cover your butts so that you don't have to face scrutiny later on for the things that you did? And so what those are the two biggest concerns that I have, and then there's obviously the precedent. Um, this
Yeah.
is our sovereignty. We are giving away sovereignty. It does not matter how you feel about Israel. If you hate Israel, you love Israel. You have some sort of racial bent against Jewish people, or you don't. It does not matter. That's not the issue. That's not what this is about. And what does bear scrutiny is how effective are lobbying dollars in DC and the politics of DC over we, the American people, and the constituencies. Because Mike Rogers and Adam Smith and Tom Cotton are certainly not representing their constituencies when they do this stuff. And
Eh,
and I hope it goes away, but maybe it won't. The president right now, I'm proud to say, is at touring Joseph Wheeler High School in Marietta, Georgia, and that is my alma mater. I am proud to
Oh,
say he is visiting my high school, but I hope he gets back to DC real soon. What's the kibosh on this?
no kidding. Now, do you think is it a reasonable thing to say that the people who propose this and vote for it are literally committing treason?
Um, it's a fine line. It's not treason because they're trying to do it through legal means. I just don't think it ever should have made it out of committees, because responsible committee chairman would have said, "This is antithetical to the Constitution. What are you doing? We know
Yeah.
this is a foreign countries don't get to be integrated with the Defense Department. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can still be allies and friends and do exercises together, and we can show them intelligence, but that is at the jurisdiction of the executive branch,
Right.
and they decide how much or how little. And as dynamic as our world is right now, as things look no look no further than how Israel and the United States in this Iran war have split on actions and strategy,
Yeah.
and how Israel has not followed President Trump's leadership at times. Look at the Pentagon statement that one of their top security risk for intel collection is the country of Israel. Does that sound anything like we should be embedding them into law about a forced permanent relationship?
Right.
Or should we say, if this is so good, if this is such a great idea, why don't we table it, and why don't we study it, and why don't we audit the relationship and all of our mill to mill cooperation, all of our defense cooperation, all of the intellectual property, all of the technology development, some that went to China from Israel?
Yeah.
Why don't we hold those up into the light and say, is this in our best interest? If it's such a great idea, then certainly the evidence would back up us doing this, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And in Trump's view of the world, at least as far as I understand it, it's Israel's prerogative if they don't agree with Trump. Now, of course, he doesn't like that, but that is the very core of sovereignty itself. And if that's commingled, things get very murky.
Things get very murky very quickly. And again, my favorite general, one of my favorite presidents, laid it out in his farewell address very, very well. Beware of foreign entanglements. And then we got to get all the way to a guy named Eisenhower says, beware of the damn military
Yeah.
industrial complex. Hey, guess what? These things are enmeshed.
Right.
Enmeshed. And no, we don't need 1.5 trillion for defense. So knock it off.
Yeah.
So
One
veto it.
final
Let's
one
veto it.
fin one final question for you, General, and then I'll
Mhm.
let you go beat whatever drums you have to go beat today. Um, the deep state, the City of London, the WEF types, how the globalist network, whatever people's preferred moniker is for them. How would you grade Trump or give us a status update on how Trump is doing at cutting the strings that are keeping them in power?
Yeah, I, I guess my biggest thing is it's not time to grade the president yet.
Yeah.
We're not at the put your pencils down moment. And there are I have very dear friends, Danielle, who are analysts like me. They're in the media, and some of them are just absolutely frustrated with me that I will not get on a flamethrower rant on the air or in my podcasts about where I think the Trump administration is going wrong, or we've been duped or anything like that. And the reason is I see the same threats that my friends see.
Yeah.
But my words of advice to them are, what's your rush? What's your rush? Because this is for all the marbles. This is for our republic. And if the president loses here, won't we have plenty of time to figure out what the heck plan B is going to look like? Because there's nobody who's coming up that I can see that's going to replace the man who is a pit bull that brings his own China shop.
Yeah.
I just, since there's no rival to someone who's going to stand up and say America first, and I'm going to knock out the British Empire and win the American Revolutionary War, well, then we may as well watch this play out, because plan B is so rough. We'll do it.
Yeah.
We don't wanna, but if we have to, we'll do it. But what I would just say is, I don't think it's time to grade his work yet. I would say, you've heard me on our discussion today, all the things I'm frustrated and worried about, and yet I'm not ready to cast judgment. I'm ready to say, gosh, I hope you understand all these things are in play, and maybe you do. And when I'm allowed to pass feedback into the administration, but mum's the word, I never get any feedback back, and I promise you, I'm not read into any plans. I find that wonderful. I find that wonderful. I hope that President Trump's plan is not known to anything more than about 4 people, God, and a dog named Rex. And that's about it.
Yeah. And would you say there's some things that he's doing well in that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think, look, the stuff with highlighting and showing the people how torn up this government is, and how we've been duped, and how right on down to the local level, we are just in a corrupt sieve. He's done a great job with that. He's pointing out to us through evidence dumps now, hard evidence dumps after the Thursday speech, that there is a deep state. There's no denying it anymore, especially if you look at the emails with the NSA. Hey, we're going to help China here. We're going to dilute the PDB. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Right.
Do you know what level of treason that is? That's noose. That's a noose.
Wow.
That's awful. And so he's exposing this, and I know he's bringing along the American people on an education, even the most ardent ones who will always be never Trumpers, but even in their own brains, they're like, yeah, we got a problem. And we do have a problem, America, we do. And so I think that's what he's doing well. Pitching battle on elections, okay, good idea. Pitching battle on Russiagate, good idea. Understanding foreign interference, taking care of the geopolitical stuff, starting with the cartels, taking away their money. These are all great things. I think these are wonderful things. But right over the horizon, I'm looking at the tech bros, surveillance, soul cages, 15-minute cities. And if you think that this enemy that's been operating for 1,500 years got to this place to lay down their swords and go, Shucky Durns, you figured us out. No, they're not going to do that.
No, they're not going to do that. Well, General, it has been a pleasure as always. The time has flown by, and of course, I could hold you hostage here for multiple more hours with questions and questions. I feel like the very provoking grasshopper over here with more and more questions for the professor. But would you just feel free to give any plugs you want? I have your website here, dangerousintellectuals.com. I know you're on Newsmax. If you want to talk about Zariant, anything that you just want to say.
So dangerousintellectuals.com, that's kind of Blaine Holt's little cotter pin. On page 1, you can see the pre-brief for the night before the big episode. It's a little 4-minute, this is what we're going to talk about. And then the episode description is there. If you go to the More tab at the top, you can find the most recent book review I've done. This is about the Venetians and how this whole thing got going. My latest writing piece at newsmax.com, the column I wrote about the war of sovereigntists versus globalists, that came out yesterday. And then I'll put an infographic up about what I'm working on for the next episode that goes in there. And then at Xerient, stock symbol XERI, we are having breakthrough after breakthrough. We're multi-technologies, everything from AI under the hood to predictive analytics, and our first commercial products, which are now coming into the world, are advanced building materials. And so think of not using sheetrock, but instead using our recycled stuff that is waterproof and fireproof and better for you. And like I said, when you hear me talk about scary monster things like voice to skull and surveillance stuff, we want to be the company that develops stuff that helps counter all that crap. We want to be the company that uses and leverages technology to enhance sovereignty and your rights.
Amazing. Well, we will stay tuned on that. You keep me posted, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you so much for sharing with me today, for being so gracious to answer all my questions, and hopefully we'll be getting you back soon.
Pleasure's all mine.
Thank you, General. Have a great one.
Okay.
And I just love talking to General Holt. We could literally talk all day if he had the time, but I know he's got a lot going on. I wanted to just make a couple of announcements before I get on out of here. The first is for the unauthorized conference called Storm Summit. Let me see if I can find the graphic for that here. And I believe General Holt is a confirmed speaker for that. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, he will be there. So that is one to definitely look forward to. I am hoping to attend as well, and perhaps Chris and I might be there and covering it. Also tomorrow, and you can sign up for that at stormsummit.us. And tomorrow, Chris and I will be giving a retrospective into the laws that laid the foundation over the last 6 years for the consolidation of power in Louisiana Secretary of State's office. And we have some really excellent guests coming on next week, people that you will be very excited to hear from. You'll have to stay tuned to our social media to find out who they are. But warriors, as always, get to know first. And people who are in the Warriors Circle can submit questions for our guests in advance as well that we will consider putting forward. We'll pick a couple of those and bring them to those guests. So if you have not yet, please join the Warrior Circle. Membership has its privileges. You can do that at join.freedomstate.us, and that will get you entry. All right, folks, it's been excellent. Like I said, the time has flown by, but I look forward to being back here with Chris tomorrow morning, and we will be exposing, as we always do, what's been going on behind the curtain in our state. All right, folks. Well, love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead, and we will see you then.
Red Zeppelin is the best kept secret, but because of us, it's really not a secret anymore. Anybody who has not been to Red Zeppelin on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, you're truly missing out. The best environment, the best service, and the best pizza in the state of Louisiana. Go to Red Zeppelin today. Tell them the State of Freedom sent you. Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Thanks for joining me today on For the Love of Freedom. It is an honor and a true privilege to get to spend some time with you. If you're looking for other episodes of this show, you can find them on all of the State of Freedom platforms. And a reminder that this show is live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central. God bless.